problems are profound. The problems of palladium, the problems of the electrochemical interface are truly, awesomely profound problems, and at the moment I don't see the resource directed to it to solve these problems in any realistically short time. So I come back to my first point, give money to cold fusion. The work is focused on materials because we haven't been able to scale our excess heat experiments. At least those that have been able to scale it haven't announced it publicly, with perhaps one exception. And in this respect, I direct you to a statement made by Mr. Matsui in the NHE presentation. The reason NHE has abandoned this effort, at least temporarily, that Neto and MITI has abandoned the effort, is because the project was set up as a way to gain advantage in the engineering development of a cold fusion heat machine. The work that was done at NHE, tremendous work, finally focused heavily on materials issues. But the fact is, as Mr. Matsui very accurately said, they were not able to obtain sustained, reproducible levels of excess heat sufficient to base an engineering development program. Therefore, the project had failed and must be terminated. I think the polarization is perhaps unfortunate in another regard. Without fundamental knowledge to guide the engineering development, it's not clear to me that the demonstration objects, the machine, the heat-producing machine that will utilize this phenomenon can be and will be made within the resource of funding and patience that are available to us at the moment. But on the whole, I'm very pleased with the balance, with the focus, with the attitude. Something which I noticed at this conference for the first time is the significant involvement of people younger than me. This is absolutely crucial if the field is to survive. As our average age increases with each ICCF, the rate of progress isn't as fast as it could be. We will just die before we understand this. Our critics will succeed not for any good reason, but because we have lost the capacity to stand up at a microphone and speak. In this context, bringing young people to the conference, I think Professor Takahashi deserves a very strong thanks. But Professor Dash is working with the young people. I see a surprising and very pleasing representation of a young Canadian contingent. I had no idea Canadians even knew what cold fusion was. Having said that, I think that there's still an opportunity to learn from the greybeards in this field. Two of the best papers for me at this conference were the papers presented by Ed Storms and Martin Fleischmann, not the youngest of us. They are saying things that we need to listen to. There is still a contribution to be made by the people who generated this field and defined it. For me, the best heat report, certainly perhaps the best report of this conference, was that of Mitch Schwartz. I have not been the greatest, it's not a good word, I have not had the highest hopes for the nickel light water experimentation. I have not been able to perform the experiments myself successfully, and I've always felt that the quality of the calorimetric observations in the nickel light water studies has been less than the quality of the calorimetric observations in the Palladium deuterium system. This is obviously a clearly prejudiced and biased view. But Mitch Schwartz presented a very clear piece of calorimetric evidence, which is certainly going to cause me to reconsider my belief, my understanding of the nickel light water system and its capacity to produce anomalous heat. Another paper that I'd like to mention, because it came as a surprise to me, both in the result and in the attitude, was that of Len Case, who had exposed deuterium to a standard palladium on carbon catalyst and observed consistently excess heat. Now, in the history of this field, people that obtained such results didn't tell you what they had done. They hinted that they had done it and that they had the answer. And when you asked them what they had done, they said, I cannot tell you. There's some proprietary concern or some dreams of a Nobel Prize. This has been one of the most constipating factors in the development of cold fusion. And I was very impressed with what Dr. Case had done, and the fact that he was willing to completely and openly speak of it in order to solicit our input and to work with us in order to demonstrate that there is certainly the possibility that there is an error associated with those measurements. Set out and test it, let's work together and talk about it and discuss the results. There is a cohesive spirit in the cold fusion community. I didn't spend as much time as I probably should have in preparing these remarks, because I regard every one of you as a friend. And when you talk to your friends, it doesn't matter what you say. People think that it sounds good. When you talk to your enemies, it doesn't matter what you say. It's rubbish. So, one of the strengths of this community is, in fact, the attitude of warmth and friendship which surrounds us. And I have a great hope that we will succeed. I think if you were to design a project, a concept, the sole purpose of which was to bring people from several nations together to work, people from several disciplines together to work, and to listen and talk to each other, you couldn't design one better than the cold fusion. It may be that Fleischmann knew this all along and has perpetrated this on us just for the purpose of an electrochemical material science, nuclear processes, man on the moon project. Slightly more administrative, I guess. In each conference we've tried something new. We introduced parallel sessions at Maui. I think a distinctly bad idea, and it was mine. And we're evolving, and we're struggling, we're scrambling to find ourselves. Who are we? How should we present ourselves? How we should comport ourselves? Two new innovations at this conference. One I think worked very, very well. One I'm not so certain about. The 5-minute poster briefings for me were one of the surprises. I had not imagined that they could be as successful as they were. I have a boss once, Graham Hills, who Martin Fleischmann knows well, said if you can't explain your ideas in 5 minutes, you don't understand it yourself. Given the language difficulties and the cross-discipline nature of this field, that task becomes a little bit more difficult. But I thought that everybody did a tremendous job in sticking to the time, sticking to the cleanliness of their thoughts. And I learned more in a sustained way during those 5-minute sessions than I have in many weeks of conferences on other topics, or on this topic for that matter. So much so that I'm completely worn out. I've absorbed so much information, I'm now fatigued. Well, that's one of the reasons I'm fatigued. I don't know about the workshops. I think we perhaps might want to review that. I've been soliciting opinion as to how the workshops work, and I didn't attend all of them. It was a new idea, a new way to do it, and I think the thought process was a good one, but I'm not as, I haven't received as much positive feedback about the existence of workshops as I have about the 5-minute poster briefings. Finally, I mentioned this briefly on the boat when we were all under the influence of the ocean. I think Fred Yeager and the local organizing committee have done an absolutely tremendous job in organizing this conference. I don't know about Fred's motto for this, the best ever, but the organization was the best ever. I'm expecting that we will go on to ever better and better conferences. So I think the best so far would hopefully be a more accurate description. So I would urge you all to give your support to Franco Scaruzzi towards the organization and success of ICCF-8 in Europe, and go forth and multiply. Thank you.
We've heard very outstanding summaries by Drs. Bersani and Dr. McKubre, excellent summaries of the scientific content and theoretical and experimental content of the meeting. And so now it's time, and I'm honored to be able to help with this time, to get feedback from the audience on two general areas, some of which Dr. McKubre has already addressed, and that is, how can we make the conferences in the future better in many respects? This was indeed a marvelous conference, and I agree with many of the points he made about the presentations and 5 minutes and so forth. And the second big category, apart from how can we make the conferences better in the future, how can we make our research and development, engineering development, better in the future? So I would like to just throw out this challenge to you all, and perhaps switch to this roving mic here. Does this work? Yes, I guess it does. And so by just raising your hand with whatever comment you wish to make, I'll come down over to you, and like the movie star, unfortunately, the MC, come to you. I think. Yes. Before I come to you, David, I would like to come to Larry Forsley, since I believe he has a presentation to make. Want to come up here, Larry? Yeah, this is appropriate to come up to the stage. Everyone else doesn't have to come up to the stage.
Need Martin Fleischman, please.
Me? Yes, you.
First, tell us who you are.
I'm Larry Forsley.
I'm with JWK in Annandale, Virginia, but I'm also from the Hot Fusion program at the University of Rochester. And in recognition of how much grief the University of Rochester and my old laboratory in particular have given Martin, many of you remember the dead graduate student problem. That was coined by Bob McCurry, the director of my lab, and it was an indication that if you're producing DD fusion, you should have a commensurate number of neutrons, and if there were that many neutrons to make up for the heat, then all the graduate students should be dead. Since the graduate students at the University of Utah were not dead, there was no heat. Very simple.
And did Professor Huizenga contribute to that too?
Well, he has always contributed to many ideas in this field. But I would like to present you with some fusion wine.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm afraid, though, that Tullio Bresani and Mike McKubre have confused the audience. You're really John Huizenga, and I'm Douglas Morrison. It says Bully Hill Vineyards Fusion Red Table Wine. I think it's from upstate New York, which was my first cathartic experience on landing in New York. I went on the, you remember the 20th Century Limited? Used to run out of, what was this railroad station called? Grand Central. And I'd been brought up in Europe, and I thought, well, you have to have the wine of the country, round the bay. And I ordered a bottle of New York Burgundy. And I got off at Schenectady, which was a terrible mistake.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As I have a mic and I need to go to the bathroom, I will just say, try to correct an impression which I may have unfortunately given in my presentation. You may have noticed that my presentation had a focus, which roughly speaking was echoing Mike McKubre, give me some money. But I don't think really we are so highly polarized as Mike says. I think it's just that we realize that the fundamentals will take a long time, and that at this time we better try and do something which will convince someone that there is an end use for this technology.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you very much.
And here's one more thing.
There is a party this evening after everything is done. Vancouver is hosting the Palladium Club.
We don't know what the content of this affair is, but it came in parallel by coincidence. Thank you, Mark. Now, we'll go to the first individual who stood up. Perhaps you want to come over here. Tell us who you are.
My name is Dave Capoletti. I'm an investor. In the interest, this is an administrative comment. I was looking forward to Italy next year. I would like to see question periods limited to questions and not speeches. And if you have something to say, make a poster, do the work, and we'll all come to you. That way we can get things done much more cogently. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Will the next questioner? Dr. Pappas. Yes, I think it would be a good idea for you in general to come here. That way, while you're coming, I can make my speeches. Demonstration units.
I have to say that unfortunately I came to know this conference very recently. I just picked it up from the internet, and then I decided immediately to come over. I'm a physicist, I'm a professor at the Technical University of Piraeus, Athens, Greece, and I was working in electromagnetism, and very quickly I jumped into discharges where I noticed various effects, and I have to be brief, and I'll tell you, I noticed the first biological effects which I didn't know where to how to explain them. The bottom line is that biology is another field which is waiting for actually, I dare to say that your heart is beating based on cold fusion. Cold fusion continuously works in our bodies. There's so much evidence in biology that is accumulated over the last 100 years. For some reason, I don't know why science has ignored it. There's a very good article currently in Infinite Energy. I didn't have the opportunity to present my paper with relevant findings in biology, and particularly the fusion of sodium to potassium that takes place in every cell, and the way that we manage to, with the electrical stimulation from outside, to enhance and increase the production of potassium by electrical pulses outside the cell. And this is a fact and independent proof that cold fusion occurs in cells, and not only the sodium potassium, but there is a vast number of such cold fusion reactions. So I dare to say that biology is 50% chemical and 50% nuclear. And this is a fact. Yes, this is not a joke. I'm very serious to say so. And I hope you will see my article in the proceedings, and I'm looking forward to see you again in the ICCF-8. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to communicate with you.
Thank you very much. Perhaps Dr. Pappas would set up a special session next time, or perhaps a separate meeting on biological transmutation. Are there other questions or comments? Gee, we're all talked out, aren't we? Oh, here's Douglas.
2 points. Firstly, I always regard these meetings as meant to be scientific meetings, and normally when I go to a meeting, you have one terminal for 10 participants. For example, that's recently one with 900 participants and they 100 terminals, because you like to keep in contact. Instead of that, last night I went to a cyber cafe. But it'd be nice if you could provide at some future meeting to have terminals to give to work. Computer terminals, yes. So you can, yes. So you can keep in contact your home lab and find out what's happening. Very obvious. Secondly, this is a scientific meeting. This is not a financial meeting. The financial meetings, when they have press conferences, they allow questions, they don't allow comments, and it's a press discussion like spin doctors. In scientific meetings, you normally have discussions. You don't just ask questions, you have discussions. If the speaker says something unexpected, you have the right to comment on it and say that is true, doesn't fit in the context. So I think it would not be a scientific meeting if you did not have discussions as well as questions.
Thank you very much. And I will also have to thank Douglas. He made an excellent suggestion earlier, in addition to the cyber connection that we certainly could have here for email and so forth. He made the suggestion that iodine and cesium, someone else mentioned that, should be tried in the Cincinnati group cells. And I'm all for that. So that was a very constructive criticism indeed. Yes, Dr. Biberian.
I'm really impressed by the fact that Dr. Morrison is coming to all these events. So 2 things could be right. One is a spy, but I don't think so. Second option is that he is really interested by cold fusion, believes in cold fusion. So I suppose we should name it as the ambassador of cold fusion, because he's the best candidate to make our point in the world, you know. He knows everything. He's got it from the inside and the outside, and he's the best critics. And I think he should be the one who carry cold fusion to the outside world. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Yes. Anyone else? Am I seeing hands? Yes, Dr. Tanzella.
Thanks. Just a quick comment. I enjoy coming to these conferences, and the main reason is to just interact with these people that I see very often, once every 18 months. Some of them live 3 miles away from me, and I only see them once every 18 months when I come here. But just a point, three documents come out of this conference every year. There's the abstracts, there's the proceedings, and in many ways, the most important one is this one here. The list of participants with names and phone numbers and email. And I suggest very strongly we all take advantage of this and contact each other sometime before we go to Italy 18 months from now.
Other hands? First, this one, and then I think we'll hit Larry last, because he had the first statement.
Brian Goulet, I live in Seattle. I think it's very important that people don't duplicate work. There's 100 years of research in palladium hydrides. Look at the books. They're not computerized because they're too old. That's all I have to say, I guess.
Dr. Ramadan, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Разрешите поблагодарить столь уважаемое сообщество, коллег и, я надеюсь, друзей за столь прекрасную организацию. Хотелось бы поблагодарить в первую очередь Фреда Ягера, как председателя, за такую хорошую организацию, ну и весь секретариат.
Dr. Ramadanov would like to thank everybody for a very great conference and also Mr. Fred Yeager for great organization for us.
Разрешите всех присутствующих пригласить на конференцию по холодному синтезу, которая состоится в этом году с 28 сентября по 5 октября в России на берегу Черного моря.
Dr. Ramadanov would like to invite all of you in Russian conference. It will be 6th Russian conference on cold nuclear transmutation, which is going to take place in Sochi, in the Black Sea area, this year, September 28th to October 5th.
Мы приглашаем всех, и я поэтому не прощаюсь с вами, а говорю до свидания.
So Dr. Ramadanov invite everybody, and for this reason he's not saying goodbye, but see you later.
And I would just add briefly after that fine invitation that on your way back from Russia in the fall, you're welcome to come to beautiful New Hampshire at the height of the foliage season. We're having a little mini cold fusion session, which will be oriented toward demonstration units, we think. Yes?
I'd like to reduce my own workload by asking you all to submit papers, getting scientists to submit papers to Infinite Energy and Mitch Schwartz's magazine is like pulling teeth. If you all would write down what you're doing and tell us and publish it more, we would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We have another comment from...
One other thing, I saw an awful lot of people like myself scrambling for photocopies of papers. Come on. A few photocopies, please. I mean, it would make it a lot easier. Not only scientists come to these meetings. Okay? We need to read some things so that we can follow some things. And by the way, Dr. Morrison, my commentary wasn't, my point was not to shut off commentary. Speeches, no. And perhaps we can use some of these sessions instead of workshops. Call them bitch sessions, I don't care, but everybody will be there, all right?
Thank you. Yes, I would second that whole business of, you should all, if you can, bring photocopies, as many as you can, of your papers. It is very frustrating to want to ask everybody and get the paper. That would help communication greatly for preprints in the future. Yes, Dr. Chubb, Scott Chubb.
I can see that a lot of the context of the comments here is straight beyond the immediate meeting. I think there's a definite need for us to come into contact with mainstream science. And with that in mind, there are a couple of things that could be done. We could really have the meeting at a university, for example. There's another thing. A while ago, Talbot and I put forth a suggestion that we send abstracts into meetings of the American Physical Society. And we could do this. You could send them to us, and we could submit them. And in that way, come into mainstream science. And I would urge people to do that. American Nuclear Society is another one.
Thank you. There is very good suggestion. Let's also point out that there is an American Nuclear Society session. I don't know the exact date, but it is between June 8th and 11th, exclusively on transmutation, low-energy nuclear reactions, and I believe it's something like 14 papers are already scheduled. Mitch Swartz, I know, has something to do with that. George Miley has something to do with that. So contact them. There was a handout here. Who else?
I'm ultrasound engineer. I must say, very important. The ultrasound people in this community must or should speak in ultrasound engineering community like IEEE, Acoustic Society of America. We will have a IEEE ultrasound meeting in Sentai, Japan. The deadline is May until the ultrasound.
Bingham or Ross George?
You are okay, so I'm sorry. You should speak in Sendai, Japan, this program. I will welcome. I'm one organization.
Please send us all information about that. Thank you. Dr. Celani.
Okay, I think I will say something maybe not happy for some people, but I think it's important. So it seems that now, maybe for 1 or 2 years, we don't have to worry about money because it seems the engineering problem now is not good. So we don't worry if our results can be used. So now it's time for basic research. So now we can share our information, and maybe stupid or thinking or beginning, but we share friendly. So I think after 1 or 2 years of this changing time, the time for engineering can grow really. So now use computer to share our idea around all the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Something is from other industries we can learn something. The semiconductor industry discovered in the United States that in order to make progress a little faster, rather than the super secret, proprietary information route that they were generally pursuing, they decided to have an organization called Semitech down in Austin, Texas. I would like to submit that that might be a model by which, if we followed it, we could do what they call pre-competitive research. That's good for all companies, but not move into the proprietary realm. And that might, if we then got all together and put what little money we can have in all the various places in one place, we might make progress somewhat faster. And that's my hope and dream, and I hope you'll cooperate with anyone who's trying to do that. Thank you.
That is an astonishingly good idea. Many people have thought of that. In fact, some people that I know have promised vast sums of money, infinite seas of money, for just that purpose. We'll let you know when the ship comes in, if it ever does. Who would raise their hand? Where? Dr. Vijay.
See, scientific discussions have always been difficult. Started with John Mallove and other people, whether the center of this world or not. And so, but of course, times have changed and the problems have changed. But when we discuss a question like this, which has huge possible economic or military or political fallouts, and of course, we should try to have it go on in as free and open a way as possible. And of course the world has changed, and now there's internet and so on. So I suggest we should perhaps open a place in internet where we could, with a neutral, responsible group, which would carry on the discussion between conference, and everybody ought to be able to express himself in a story like that. Because a lot of things are at stake. I know there are even among us, there are very strong scientific discussions going on or behind the scenes. It's very good that inside our own group there should be dissidents and so on. I mean, the freer and the more open the discussion will be, the better it will be. So I suggest we open an internet set where the discussion could go on in a permanent way. And you see, there is a problem of money, of course, involved. Some people want to do experiments. They cannot. They're prevented by various, even academic forces. And so I suggest we open an internet site and carry on discussion in a permanent way.
Thank you very much. Even though we are technically 3 minutes beyond 10:30, I noticed that Dr. McKubre and Dr. Bersani slipped a little over, so perhaps we'll continue for another 5 minutes or so, and then we will formally close. Any other comments? We'll hit Larry Forsley again.
I also found these workshops not to be as useful as I might have liked them to be. In some conferences I've hosted over the last 15, 20 years, we've made use of what we call working groups, and we're able to address two different needs with these. The first is almost a tutorial-like session for people new to the field, perhaps those with financial interests and other interests. And the second is these convene in the course of the conference. So if in fact something strikes people's fancy, those things that many of us kind of did on the side when we could find time, you know, have a focus for doing it. So I would put a big push in to consider working groups for the next conference, and if the organizers want any advice on it, we're happy to share it with them via the internet. And again, thank you, Fred.
Yes. This is Mr. Lewinson from the UK.
If this microphone is good enough for an Antipodean, it must be good enough for me. Max Lewinson, Chairman of ENICO. I'm afraid I don't know very many of you yet, as I'm a recent convert to cold fusion. And I'm not from a scientific or physics background, but from finance and business. I've certainly been, I suppose, like a lamb to the slaughter, lapping up everything I've been fed this week. I have to say I'm the last person competent to make any comment on scientific issues, but I do have a few general commercial points which I hope may be thought-provoking. I think few would argue that if the cold fusion enigma is to be solved, then it'll be one of the most important scientific discoveries this century, and an enormous potential benefit to mankind in the next millennium. So it's an exciting and a simple story, and well understood by the public at large, or would be. And yet the field is chronically underfunded. Why? Why is that? Now, I know the history of 1989 and what followed, but the community really must find a way of overcoming that problem. And I know there are many who will say, but we only have to have a completely sustainable, reproducible experiment and the world will change. But you've been saying that for at least 8 of the last 9 years. So 9 years on, and in some senses, and please, I mean no disrespect here, I think the community is its own worst enemy. There appear to be as many theories as there are people involved. Some appear to be pretty wild or certainly unsubstantiated, and there seems to be no cohesive or credible public relations with the outside world. Now, of course it's a good thing that there are many different scientific avenues being explored, and it's natural that there are going to be jealousies and rivalries. But so long as the establishment can dismiss the cold fusion community as a bunch of wild dreamers, there's little hope of getting significant extra funding. So what's the solution? Well, I'm not sure that I have the answer, but let me say this. I would certainly be willing to endow a suitable body to represent the cold fusion community in a thoroughly professional and credible way. Because I think that if one can influence public opinion or public perception, and there are many out there who would flock to support such a worthy cause, then I think the establishment would soon follow. And with a bit of luck, this could lead to extra funding for research and development, and a much easier development path if and when a real breakthrough is made. Finally, I very much hope that you've all enjoyed your time in Vancouver, and that we can move forward together towards more enlightened times. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since I've touched on a theme that I'm very familiar with, I will interject my opinion on this, and I know others, a small minority in this audience, do believe this. The reason cold fusion has not been accepted has nothing to do with the scientific papers or the scientific experiments. It has only to do with the fact that no one in the world, in the cold fusion community, can now hand a skeptical person, a neutral person, or an antagonist even, a device which he or she can take to their laboratory and make experiments on to fully verify. That is the key problem. No technology in history has ever succeeded based on theory papers alone and experiments alone. It will not happen. And that is my belief as to why the field is having such great difficulty. When we reach that turnaround point, when anyone can get that device for purchasing or giving it, that will be the beginning of an ocean of support. Any other comments from other people? Do you have a comment? Yes. Dr. Sabatinova.
Excuse me, please. I would like to wish the big success for and good luck for all that participate who made the such interesting representation of their interesting results. It is so necessary to have success in this problem for all cold fusion researchers.
Thank you very much. And perhaps one or two more questions. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Sasak. Yes.
I like to use the interpreter because my poor English, I don't want to mispresent my message. First of all, I'd like to congratulate this very successful meeting up in Vancouver. I first know this meeting through the Dr. Gruber from Germany, and also the Russian scientist, New Science. And I got to know this meeting first from them. I'm a just ordinary common experimenter. That's what you call it. It's an experimenter. But I really like to this general public to know this meeting or this society exists. And after this meeting, if anyone interested in superconductivity that I could explain, please come and see me after the meeting. Thank you very much.
And we'll have just one more question, if we may. And then, of course, since we have this room till, I believe, 12 o'clock, anyone who wants to continue to stay around and talk or fight is welcome to. So, do we have any very eloquent, articulate last question or comment? Or are we all talked out? I see no comments. Fine. Oh yes. Well, he's eloquent, but he's trying to get more time.
Okay, I have to propose something to anyone who would like to confirm always with a recurrent disability, exercise by 20%. I have a device that we use for medical purposes, but every calorimetric measurement we run out of it, with students, myself, other people, always gives excess energy. So it's something that anyone would like to verify that, I'm willing to contribute to that.
Thank you very much. And we'll close now, and I'll just say goodbye, thank you for coming, and we'll see you in Italy for the next conference at ICCF-8.